Alright, so I finished weaving in all my ends but two. I'm going to weave these ones in once we work over this spot, just so there's more to weave it into and it doesn't end up showing through on the white or making these chains thicker. So you can pick, or you can't pick, sorry. Let me check. So we're now switching to our 4.5mm crochet hook. And we are going to start with the front side of our work facing us. We are going to take our main color again and make that slip knot. And we are going to start in the upper right corner. So this is my upper right corner, and we're actually going to be working into the side of this very first single crochet, and it's kind of like working into that crochet. So for the sake of making this easier, I'm going to say put your hook into that crochet on the right and pull up your yarn with a chain 1. And so we're going to count that as working into the side of the first single crochet. And next we're going to just yarn over and half double crochet into that same space. And from here we are going to chain 1, and we are going to skip the side of the next single crochet because we have 3 rows here that have single crochets on the edge. So we're going to skip this middle one here, and we are going to half double crochet into the side of the third single crochet. So we have a half double crochet, a chain 1, a skip 1, and a half double crochet. And this is the top edging of our top. So from here we are going to start working into the chain spaces. So you can see here that there is this little narrow space. We aren't going to count that as one of the official chain spaces here, but we are going to put 1 half double crochet into that little narrow space right there. And from here we are going to be putting 2 half double crochet in each of these chain spaces. But if you want yours looser and to have more stretch, I would put 3, because stitch count doesn't matter here. But for the sake of consistency, I'm going to put 2 in each single one. So 2 half double crochet in each chain space. And then no matter what, I'm going to be putting 3 into this last one here, just to ensure that it is not too tight when the top is wrapping around. You don't want it pulling up on the corner of the cup, because that's probably just going to end up being uncomfortable sitting in your underarm, and I want to help make sure that that is a little bit more avoidable. So that is 3 half double crochet in the last chain space no matter what. You can pull that and see how it will sit flat. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides to be putting the 2 half double crochets into. Next we are going to be working into this top corner here. Something I'm not including in the pattern, this is just something that I want to do myself, is I am actually going to add a 4th stitch in this last one for the sole purpose of pinning this down. So what I'm going to do is yarn over. I'm going to go into this last half double crochet in this cluster of 5, and I'm going to make sure I can rotate and go back into that last chain space. It's a little bit tricky to go into there. I'm going to half double crochet that in there. So you can see now this is kind of pinned flat a little more. And now I'm going to be working into the first corner of the large motif. So starting in the corner, we are going to put a half double crochet. And then in every stitch across, we're going to add a half double crochet. So we're going to be starting in these first 2 double crochets. I'm going to do half double, and then you know we have 4 here because we're ignoring that chain space if you happen to come across it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 in each of the 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. So essentially we're just half double crocheting in the corner and then every stitch across until the next corner, and then we will put 1 half double crochet in that next corner as well. Right, I'm at the corner and I'm going to put my last half double crochet into that corner. And now this is where we kind of start bringing this in together. And we should have half double crocheted a total of 18 stitches. Alright, from here we are going to chain 2. And we are going to double crochet in the space that's connecting the large and small motif. So this is the corner of the small motif. And this is one of the edge holes for the large motif, and this is the chain that we use to connect them. So we chained our 2, and now we are going to double crochet into that chain space here, just like that. And then from here we are going to chain 2 again, and we are going to slip stitch into the center space. So we're skipping over the corner of the small motif and we're slip stitching into the center space of the motif. And now we're going to chain 2 again, double crochet into the next joining chain space, so a double crochet in there, and then we are going to chain 2, and then we are back to the corner of the next motif where we are just going to put a half double crochet, and then we are going to half double crochet all the way across and into that next corner. Alright, so I just half double crocheted into the last corner, and this time I'm going to start by yarning over and putting my hook into the second half double crochet in the cluster of 5, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the first chain space and work that one I am using to join them. Actually, because of the gap here, I think I'm actually just going to add an additional half double crochet right in that spot instead, and then work my 3 in here just to kind of eliminate that gap. And then I'm going to put my 2 half double crochets in each of these chain spaces until the end again where you see there's another little gap, and just like on the other side we're going to put 1 half double crochet in this gap. So 2 half double crochet in each of the chain spaces across. And then I'm going to half double crochet into this little gap here. And then just like the other side, we're going to half double crochet on the side of the first single crochet, chain 1, skip the side of the next, and then we're going to half double crochet essentially into that last single crochet on the side. And that is the whole top of the first row on our bralette. I'm not really sure what to call this, a bralette. I don't really think it's a halter top. It's definitely a mesh top. Okay, so row 2 for the top edging, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work, of course. And so now the back side is facing us. And starting in the chain 1 space, we are going to half double crochet across to the chain 2 space in the center. So that means we're going to half double crochet. We're skipping this first half double crochet here, and we're going to work our first half double crochet into that chain space just to kind of round this off so it's not curling when the top is being worn and it's maybe getting tugged. So we half double crochet in the chain space, and just got to be mindful because it's hard to see half double crochets from the back. So this may look like the first stitch, but it is not. If you turn it around, half double crochets loops tend to sit a little bit behind the stitch, so that is the chain space. We're going to be working into this stitch next. So that would be this one here, and we're going to half double crochet all the way across to the center of our top. And I did try this with double crochet, but it just didn't look as filled in as I was going for. So I did readjust this to work with the half double crochet, and I think I may have added an additional row if I'm remembering correctly. And if you ever want to add more rows, go for it. Alright, so remember what I said about half double crochets looking a little bit different on the other side? Well, there's a half double crochet here, and the working chain for that one hangs over the edge a bit, so make sure you don't forget that one. And then that's the last half double crochet, and we are at that chain 2 space I was talking about. So from here it's pretty easy. We're just going to put one half double crochet in each of these 4 chain spaces. Sorry that my camcorder is being like that. So we're going to put one half double crochet in this first space here. And then this is the second space, so we're gonna half double crochet into that second space. I'm trying not to let these be too loose, because the point is to pull the top together, because that's what's gonna give it the shaping or the curve it needs to form fit. Alright, and then we're gonna half double crochet into that third space. And then this is the 4th space here, and we're gonna half double crochet into that. And then once again, we are going to half double crochet all the way across. And again, this half double crochet, unlike the other one, since this one's going the same direction, this is part of the chain. This is the first stitch here. So we're going to half double crochet into that first stitch there. And then all the way across. Alright, so for the end here, it's going to be a little bit different, just because we want to make sure that this part is pulled in too. Since we don't have to do that with the other side since we chained up from there, we're just going to half double crochet decrease starting in the chain space, and then pick up that last stitch as well, and then complete your half double crochet and chain 1. And that is row 2. And you can see the top is starting to come together. Alright, so we chained 1 and we are going to turn. And for row 3, we are going to start with a half double crochet decrease. So yarn over, go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, and then go into the second stitch and pull up a loop, and then pull through all of those loops right there. So next we're going to half double crochet to the center of the top again, and we are going to be decreasing over, we're going to put 2 decreases over the center 4 half double crochets we put in those chain 2 spaces. So half double crochet all the way across again. Alright, so we made it to the center stitches here, and for this one we are going to do it a little different. So you can see that our last half double crochet is right here, which means that, and that is on the top, and that means this loop here is technically that one stitch, but since it is presenting directly in the center with the other 3 of the 4, we're just going to start with that. So you can see these 4 holes here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to go ahead and count that one as the first of the 4, just so these decreases are sitting more centered. So we're just going to go ahead and double crochet decrease over the first 2 on the center, and then we have 2 left, So we are going to half double crochet decrease over those last two. And then you can see there, that's going to have that sitting quite nicely towards the center of our top. And now we are just going to half double crochet until there are 2 stitches remaining. I noticed that I forgot to stitch the bottom parts when I started the top part of this, or wait. Oh no, I did stitch that one. I don't like how much it's curving up. I may or may not go ahead and sew this down with additional brown once I try it on, because I don't want it curling like this. I want it to sit, so I might sew that later. I just wanted to point that out really quick. Alright, so I'm at the last 2 stitches here. So I'm just going to do my half double crochet decrease over that. Chain 1, and then sorry, I lost my scissors. And then I'm going to cut my yarn, and then we are all done the top. So you see how we pulled that in. I know it has to lay flat for you to pull it, but when you're wearing out or wearing this, it's not going to be flat. It's going to kind of get pushed out on your chest a bit. So the little bit of lace here is going to really open up for you. And then the bottom edging here is not going to be worked the same way as the top, so don't jump ahead just yet. I do have to charge my camcorder, unfortunately. It tends to lose battery faster when it's hot, and with the AC being off a lot for me to record and recording a lot today, it is kind of overheating. So I'm going to give it a bit, and then we will come back and do this bottom edging. Okay, now we're going to be starting at the bottom left of the top, but it will be to your right side, and we are going to continue with the main color. And just like the first one, we're going to join what kind of looks like into that double or that single crochet there. My top's going to keep jumping to the floor on me. And we are going to make that other lace hole. So just like the last one, we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet into that same space. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the side of the next single crochet, and we're going to half double crochet into that next single crochet. And again, just like on the top, we kind of have this little space down in here, this whole gap. We're just going to put 1 half double crochet into there. And then you're going to copy what you did on the top. If you put 3 half double crochet in each chain space, put 3. If you put 2, put 2. I put 2, so I'm going to continue with 2 half double crochet in each of these chain spaces. And then just like with the top, I'm also going to put 3 into this last space here. And for the 4th one that I used to pin, I'm actually going to go up or in 1 on this cluster to really make sure it sits, because I don't want to be going back and using thread to kind of sew that down. And now we are back to the corner of the large motif. We're going to put 1 half double crochet in that corner, and then we're going to half double crochet in every stitch across, but this time we're going to stop before we get into the next corner. So this time for the bottom, we are going to work just a single crochet into the corner of the large motif. And this is really going to pull it together here, but we are going to now single crochet into the chain 3 space on the side of the small motif. And then we are going to single crochet into the next corner of the next large motif. and then continue with the half double crochet in every stitch. I know it's hard to see when the top wants to keep curling under. Oops, I accidentally did not join into the right spot. Okay, make sure you single crochet into the corner. Okay, I just half double crocheted into the last large motif corner. Now, like last time, I noticed when I jumped into the space here, it left a gap, so I'm just going to put that fourth extra one here. And I'm still going to put the 3 into this chain space, but this time I'm going to put it through the half double crochet on that cluster of 5, since it didn't really hold it down on the top of the other side. That way I only have to go back and sew the one. So that's going to be the first of the 3 in the chain space. That's the second, and then the third. And now I'm just going to continue with 2 in each space. And then remember to put that one additional half double crochet in the side of this one so we can avoid having a gap. I don't know what my camcorder is doing in terms of focusing. I don't know if I can fix that or not, but I will meet you when we're to this space here. Alright, I made it to that last little space there, and I'm just going to half double crochet down into it, and then just like how we started, I'm going to half double crochet in the first side, or the side of the first single crochet, chain 1, skip the side of the next, and half double crochet into the side of the last single crochet. Alright, so chain 2, chain 1, and then for row 2 we are going to just turn our work, and we're gonna half double crochet clean across. And that means 1 half double crochet in the one we just did, and 1 half double crochet into that chain space. Alright, so I made it to the end of the row. Again, it was just half double crocheting all the way across. You're going to chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. And then this time we are going to do a half double crochet decrease over the first 2 half double crochets. And then we are going to half double crochet all the way to the center 3 stitches. Alright, so I made it to the center 3 stitches here, and what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and how I'm determining the center 3 stitches is you can see the stitch that is right over the center of the small motif, and then the 2 stitches next to it. So I'm chaining 1, and I'm skipping those 3. And then I'm just going to half double crochet into that and until the last 2 stitches again, where you will do a half double crochet decrease. Alright, I'm at my last 2 stitches here, so I'm going to do my half double crochet decrease. I don't like how that one kind of sits down, so I'm just going to grab that loop too. And we're going to chain 1. And now we are going to turn our work again. We only have 2 rows left, and then we're going to be doing the straps. So for row 4 on the bottom, we are going to half double crochet decrease. And then we're going to go all the way across to the very last 2 stitches again, where you will do another half double crochet decrease. Once again, I am at my final 2 stitches, and I'm going to do my half double crochet decrease. And then this time we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we are just going to half double crochet clean across on this final row and then cut our yarn. Okay, so I have cut my yarn. Sorry, I'm knocking my scissors around. Zoom out a bit. So I lied. I said we were going to do the shoulder straps first. The first thing I'm going to have you do is actually we're going to chain the chain that we need to lace up the back. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I recommend you chain more just so it's safe. I'm actually just gonna round that up myself to what I think is appropriate. But the reason we need to lace this up first is because I'm gonna need you to put this on before we can do the shoulder straps. So the chain is actually not going to be done by a certain amount of chains because everyone chains differently. Some people chain loosely, some people chain tightly, and how many, or my gauge for chaining is also different every day. So we're gonna take our white yarn and make a slip knot. And what you're actually gonna do is grab that measuring tape, because this is when we're gonna start using it if you didn't adjust for the part that goes around your rib cage. And we are going to chain 64 or 65 inches because we want there to be enough to have that gap there, because remember, we want that gap in the back because it really brings out the lace. This is meant to be a lace top, not a closed top. So we are going to chain until we reach, I'm going to go with 65 inches just so there's extra. And when you are taking this measurement, you are not pulling your chain tight. Alright, next you're going to cut your yarn, and I'm just going to show you how I like to end my chains when I'm trying to make ties, just because it's like the easy way to do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab the end of your chain like you're going to make a normal knot. Don't tighten it like right away, just tighten it gently and kind of work the knot towards the end of that chain. I'm not sure why it doesn't want to focus on me. And then try and get it as on the end, or as close to the end as you can, and pull it tight. And for this one, I'm just gonna cut it a little bit away from the end. And I'm gonna do that to each side. Right, so we have our lace. And before we lace up our top, since we are already working with the white and making chains, we're actually going to go ahead and make the chains for the bows as well. So for the bows, I tightly chained 48 stitches each. And we're going to need to make 4 of those. And then I'm just going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to tie those ends the same way I did for the big tie. Now I'm only going to make the one on screen because I'm only going to show you how to sew one bow on before I end the tutorial. I'm not going to sew all 4 of them on, but I will show you how we're going to lace this up. So go ahead and fold your chain in half and then pull it so you can find your center. And we are going to start by coming under that first hole, and just make sure your center kind of stays, and then go under through the other side. And I'm doing this before weaving my ends, and I would suggest weaving your ends in first. So from here we're going to start in the pattern of right to left. So we're going to take the right side and go under and up into this next hole that we made. And now we are going to take the left and go over and into the next hole. And now we're going to start again on the right side, so the one we just worked, and we're going to go over into that next hole we made. And then we're going to grab the left side, go over, and go under and through that next hole, and again, right to left through the next hole, go under, through the next hole, through the next hole, and make sure you're starting at the bottom of your top. The tie on this one sits at the top, towards your upper back. And then the last one up here. And this is what those half double crochet, chain one, skip one, half double crochet spaces were about. It was to make additional ties so they weren't limited to right here, because that seems like too few. And that's why we did decreases towards the edges of the rows. So when it's wearing tight, instead of curling out and kind of having like flaps, it curls inwards more. If you were wondering why I designed it that way. So you may want to do it more loosely than I had done it, just because you are now going to put this on and you are going to pull it to where it's comfortable. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take those 4 stitch markers I told you about, and you are going to mark 3 stitches. So you're going to put your first stitch marker in the first stitch and then your second stitch marker in the third. And for me, I only have 1 stitch marker over here, but just for an example, I'm going to show you what I do for my measurements. This stitch marker is god-awful dirty. So what I did was I counted 10 stitches from, so you see we have these 2 half double crochet decreases we did right here. Well, the first one sits more in the middle, so I don't count this one, and I counted to the 10th stitch in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you're following the model that I showed in the photo or have in the thumbnail, this is what I did for that one. So you're going to mark that 10th stitch if you want to follow with me. And the straps are going to be sewn into this one, the next stitch, and the next stitch. I don't have a second stitch marker here, but I would also be marking this one here. And once we finish the straps, you're going to sew one side to this, and then you're going to sew the other side to these last 3, these very last 3 half double crochets over here on the very inside. And now we can get to measuring. Once you have this on and comfortable and you marked where you want your straps to sit so they're not maybe too in your armpit or too close to your neck, you are then either going to have to maybe tie a string in the same spot here, or a string in one of the last stitches that we're going to be tying the strap into. Pull it towards your front and hold it up to this, and then while holding it, take it off, like take the top off, and then you will use that string to measure how long you need to chain. If you're using a measuring tape, even better. Just grab a measuring tape, maybe have a friend measure from point A to joining point B for you, and you are going to make a chain that measures that length when pulled tight. And the reason we want to pull the chain tight for this measurement is because crochet stretches, and if you really want this strap to be holding up your top, it needs to be tight. So for my example, let me scroll up. I chained 46 for my straps, and you're going to do this in the main color. Okay, so I'm going to chain my 46 for my straps. Alright, so once you have chained what reaches your measurement, you are going to chain 1 extra stitch, and then you're going to skip the first stitch, which is right here. You're going to skip that first stitch and then single crochet into the bump of the second stitch. And we're going to make sure we're single crocheting in these bumps, because that's going to make sure we have that nice V-stitch look on the back side to keep it more uniform. So we're just going to single crochet all the way to the end. And then for row 2 and 3, we're just going to chain 1, turn, and single crochet clean across. So it's essentially 3 rows of single crochet across your chain. The sun left a little bit, so it's a little bit darker now, and my camcorder, come on. So I reached the end of the first row, and like I said, we're just going to chain 1, and turn and single crochet across. And then once you get to the other end, you're going to chain 1, turn, and single crochet across again. So that's going to be 3 rows of single crochet, 1 for each of the 3 stitches we're sewing into on the top. And don't cut your yarn as soon as you get to the end. I mean, you can, but if you're going to, I just wanted to say real quick, make sure you leave like a decent length so you can just use what's already on the strap to sew one of the sides on. It just gives you one less end to sew in. Alright, I just completed my last stitch. I'm going to chain 1 to make sure that's secured. I'm going to cut a decently long tail. And if you're wondering why I went horizontally for the stitching instead of just going this way and going back and forth, it's because when you go back and forth like that, this tends to pull more and it leaves that ugly gap. And doing it this way, when it pulls, it doesn't create that gap. So I just thought that this would be a bit more functional, in case you were wondering why I chose to do it that way. And don't worry about if it's curling or whatever. No one's going to see that when you're wearing it, A. And B, if you are willing to steam block your acrylic, it will definitely go out. The reason why my measurements are also not after blocking is because I don't always block acrylic garments. If you just wet block acrylic, it's gonna go right back to where it was before you've done so, and I don't always feel like steam blocking acrylic. So my measurements for this specific garment are unblocked. So I'm now gonna show you how to sew on one side of the strap, but all of your straps are going to be done this same way. Alright, so you're going to take the end that you left and thread your darning needle. I do have quite a small darning needle because I like a needle that separates the threads in the yarn just because it has a better hold when you sew it on. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit. I guess I was already kind of zoomed in. And then you can see this is my marked stitch here. I'm just going to take that marker off, and I'm actually, you can see I'm just starting on one side. I'm actually just going to go right into that stitch and through the back on the side of that first single crochet there. And pull it through, so that's one loop. Go back through the same stitch and out the same stitch. 2, and then I like to go into it again, and then I will come out from over the middle single crochet, and now we will go into the second crochet space on the top, so the second of the 3, and 1, 2, and then I'm going to go back in and out the final space. And into the last single crochet. I'm sorry it's so dark. The sun really hates me towards the end of the day. Go 1, 2, and then this time when I go through the back, I don't know what that's doing there, so I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to leave it in the back. And then this hanging out, you can just stitch this tight through the back just to hide that. And the way I like to weave in my ends is I'm going to go down into the top. And you can see these are the half double crochet stitches. I'm going to go under those. And you see this bump here. I'm going to grab that little bump. And now I'm going to skip over that little bump. I'm not going to go back into that bump. I'm going to go over it and back through the other stitches I just went through. And then I'm going to find one more little bump somewhere, doesn't matter where, and I'm going to grab that with my yarn. And then I'm going to go back through those stitches one more time, and that really just anchors it down. And then you can cut your yarn. Here, you know what would help? If I turned my computer screen back on. Alright, so I'm not going to sew in any other ends right now, and I'm not going to sew in the other side of this strap because it's the same thing but on the last 3 stitches. But now I'm going to show you how we are going to add the bows to all the straps, and then that's going to be the end of the tutorial. So you are going to need your white, and you're going to want to pull a long piece off. And I forgot to tie the end. I'm going to tie the end of my bow the same way I did the lace strap in the back. Just tie that really tight. Snip a little from the end. And we are not tying the bows as bows. We are kind of fastening them as bows, or holding them in place as bows. So at this point, it is important that you have a somewhat smaller darning needle like this. I'm not sure what size this is. I've had this stupid thing for so many years, and I'm also not very familiar with needle sizes. I would say it's something you could maybe use on a 9-count cross stitch, because I do cross stitch, and it is similar to that. So here we have the threaded end and then the loose end. We're going to be using the loose end, so what we're going to do with this little guy is we're going to kind of form it like a bow would be formed. So if you pinch it, it's got the 2 loops and the 2 ends. And so you're going to slap that over the loose end of your yarn, and you're going to tie 2 knots. And don't worry if it's crooked, you can adjust it before you really sew it together. And so there, it's held together. And I don't want this side so big, so you can adjust that by, well, depending on how tight you tied it, you can adjust that by pulling here, or you can pull it into the other loop there. So I like that. I like how that one's sitting. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it pretty tightly, but not like unbearably tight, just a few times. And then this part you're going to have to be careful. This is what's going to keep it from pulling out on either side. I'm going to pierce into the center of where I was wrapping, and I do use a table for this. I recommend using a table for this and being careful, because I did stab under my nail with this fat needle and it hurts. And then you just pull that to the back, and that kind of secures it. And then I just tend to cut this little guy, this little tail end here. He doesn't matter, he can get out of my way. And then to sew in the bow, I kind of do the same I did with weaving in my end. I'm going to sew it where the threads are from joining the strap to the top. And you see it's coming out more towards the right. So I'm just going to go in from the right over here and weave it into those threads there. So I'm going to pull my yarn through. And now to really fasten that, you can see here it's kind of only connected on one side. I'm going to go back through on this side like that, and then I'm going to pull it through. And I'm going to do that a few times. There's no actual knot tying. If you do this well enough, it is not coming out. This is how I prefer to weave in ends for most everything. I do recommend you switch from going under the loops on the bow and into the stitches. So I'm actually going to go into the stitches again now from the strap. And turn it. And now I'm going to go back into the back of the bow. You do kind of have to fondle it a little bit, figure out how to get through. And then for the last pass through, I'm going to just kind of grab any little chunk of yarn in the back, and I'm going to go back through the loops on the bow itself, and then I'm going to cut my yarn. So back. Sometimes it gets harder and harder to do as you go. Looks like I didn't pull it through all the way. There we go. It gets harder the more you do it, just because it's filling more and more space and making it tighter. And then I'm going to snip that. And then you have one bow on. If you need to tie it down a little bit more to reposition it, if you somehow messed up sewing it on, you can actually use the tail that you didn't sew in or use to sew on your strap, but that just kind of makes the bow, and you do that on the joining seam for the front and back of the top. So that's everything you need to make this top. I'm not going to finish this one on camera. If you need any help, just let me know. I will be selling the written pattern on my storefront as well as my Etsy. My storefront will be cheaper. If you have seen AI crochet photos and you would maybe like them to be turned into actual patterns, I will turn on my community and you can make a post there, and I will let you know if it's something that I would choose to try and recreate for you. Other than that, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun designing this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!